what point in time was the consent obtained to implement it?
Well, that's pretty easy. You have like the human interface in the cars, yeah, and you can just if you activate the service, yeah, you can say you click on weather app in a car, yeah, it's going to pop up a consent declaration, yeah. If you activate the service, yeah, we're going to process your personal data, and this personal data is going to be your location data. If you're fine with this, you click yes. Yeah.
And I think you mentioned on a previous slide that privacy by design can be product, should be a product feature actually. No, the other one. No, here, data protection compliant as a product feature, like in concrete terms. Can you give an example how that can?
Let's take an application, for example, as a product. Yeah, and you're having all the features you want to have, and you ask a software company to develop that for you. Yeah, data privacy would be one of the features. For example, the consent management. Yeah, you would tell them the app must allow for the update of privacy notices. Yeah. Which is, for example, in cars a real problem because some of the cars have they have some sort of information in the car. Yeah? Mostly how to use the car, you can use it electronically, but they don't have the opportunity to update privacy notice. Yeah? And if you're offering a new service, you have a need to update information or to obtain new consent or to re-obtain consent. And this is just something, if you have a software company develop a product for you, you would put on the list whatever privacy item is required after a thorough analysis. This was the example here. So they had to afterwards build in a consent management. Yeah. And the thing is that as privacy requirements change during the life cycle of the product, do you have the opportunity to keep up the data protection standards and compliance with data protection and all the other regulatory requirements during the whole life cycle? For example, if you have a firewall on your car that prevents hackers from taking over control over the car. And then 3 years after production, they find some hacker manages to keep you an endless circles in a roundabout. Yeah? Nothing bad happens, but you all of a sudden feel the need to update the firewall or whatever security measures in the car. Yeah? You have to be able to do so. If you're talking about technical organizational measures, we most of the time talking about technical measures, but there are organizational measures as well. Yeah? You have to have somebody in your company who once in a while has a look at the privacy requirements and checks whether they are still state of the art. And this is no old process, and this is something we're trying to implement. And the companies ask us, hey, what do you do? What kind of privacy setup do you recommend? In one company we have the engineers coming together with the internal law department and just discussing ideas at the very beginning of the development of the process, to just make sure we have them on board.
So in this case that you mentioned with updating your technical measures in case of a car, what happens if the user doesn't want to update its technical measures? Does the car stops? Do you provide them with a notice to come back to an authorized service, or just leave him alone?
Sorry, say that last time.
You leave him alone, or you say you're not liable anymore. Your warranty is void, or whatever. What are the options that you give to them?
Yeah.
Or of course consent, like that.
Totally depends on the issue. If we would recognize there is a danger for other people, we would certainly find a way to force him to update it. Yeah. If it's just the data privacy notice, I mean, EMEA is available somewhere on the homepage. You're going to send him a letter. There is an updated privacy notice. If he does not want to read it, yeah, that would certainly be his problem. Yeah, but there's a gray area between. Yeah, let's say for example you have this GPS tracking. Yeah, and then you realize. He's not the only one using the car, and we have only like asked him to consent to the location tracking. Now he's borrowing his car to friends. Yeah? How do we collect his friends' consent? Yeah? Can we rely on the driver? Can we say, do us a favor every time you let your car to somebody else? Please obtain valid consent, and please let it be in full accordance and compliance with GDPR. Yeah.
No, but there is a solution to it. You know, when you, let's say, drive a car, and you, let's say, have a speeding, and you get a speeding ticket.
Yeah.
If police doesn't see on image who is in the car,
Yeah.
you know who pays the ticket? The owner.
The owner.
So I guess that you can maybe apply the similar principle, just put the full liability on the one who signs to use the car and give consent.
Yeah.
If this person is not, you know, keeping with this obligation, this person takes full liability.
Okay, let's make this example. We have in Germany. This is public knowledge. They're discussing a new business model where they use all the data from the car. Yeah. And they want to make this data available on a non-discriminatory friendly basis to everybody on fair and reasonable conditions. Yeah. For example, for insurance purposes. Yeah. You might all heard of the pay-as-you-drive model. Yeah. I'm not a big fan of this model because I might be ending up paying more insurance fees than. Yeah. Somebody's going to analyze how you drive, yeah, and if you're a nice driver, you're going to pay less for the insurance. This is basically the concept, yeah. And there are so many more like use cases. For example, if you're offering gas stations with the possibility to charge electric cars, yeah. You want to tell people, yeah. Anytime somebody comes closer to such a station, you want to inform him, yeah. But for that, you need to know where he is actually. Yeah. And so let's say you have the consent of the driver to transmit all of the location data, and then you say collect it from everybody else as well, and put the full responsibility on the driver. If you're honest with yourself, you totally know that it's not going to do anything about it. Yeah. And can you then process such data? Although you're totally aware of the fact that nobody has obtained consent from anybody. Yeah. At the end of the day, yeah, it's responsibility under data protection, and it's going to be on you because you're the controller, you're processing the data. And the authority is going to come and say, we had some complaints, yeah, we're tracking all these people and this got publicly available, yeah, and now we have some bad divorces, yeah, because they found out where people are going, yeah, and please explain what the hell, on what basis were you processing the data? And then you say, well, that's not a problem at all, we put all the responsibility on the car owner, yeah. Authority is not going to let you get away with that, I would say.
If you have not heard.
Yeah, if you have not heard.
That's the only thing that I'm trying. If.
That's true, but this is a case.
You don't have an authority. You can also have the court if some of the persons file complaints against you, claims for damages because of those have their view.
I know, usually theory sounds big.
I agree. But the risks are.
But there's.
Extend I think the authority.
I know, but
about image. It's also.
I still think that there is not enough global authority for enough traction, and it's very hard, at least from an IoT, from a distance standpoint, to control it. I'm doing this for a living. After all these studies from a compact collection that I have, I do innovation and I do digital. we dream a lot. We want to include all kind of AI technology, and I have all kind of legal and infosec guy who's going to try to keep it all the time on ground. We have all kinds of discussion. So this is why I want to give you another contrast on reality, and we're going to also prove it through data. It will be interesting discussion to see your views also. Yeah,
And then I will have to balance them.
and he will have to because this is what he's doing, he's trying to bring digital and technical to regulation, and he's trying to find the right balance. Yeah, it will be interesting.
Online research.
Yeah.
But to offer some solution to this problem, yeah. If you enter like Drive Now, any of the car sharing things, yeah, and you start the engine, there's going to be a pop-up saying activate the transfer of personal data, yeah. And if you want to know more, click here. Yeah. Or if you're in the private sector, some cars recognize who's entering the car. Because it is connected to your phone or something, and the car in the morning says, "Hey Richard, welcome." And below, "You're not Richard." Click here. Yeah. To make there are different ways to make sure you have consent and the legal basis for processing.
Yeah, and maybe combining this with DNA typing. Then when you start driving, you just say you're not Richard, you're not driving that way.
Just only that consent is not always a solution, because what we are going to do when you are an employer and you want to use all this kind of GPS tracking for employees, then consent is not a solution, right?
Yeah, it's not going to work. That's right.
And what is to be done?
That's a very wrong question. That totally depends on what data. If you're processing the data from the car, for example, let's say you're transporting all the company's money in a truck. Yeah, overwatching the truck's tracks probably can be based on something else. Legitimate interest for it, for example, or it's even part of the employment relationship. Data processing is necessary for exercising and conducting employment activities, yeah, because it's part of his job to drive the car, and it needs to be tracked for security reasons, for example. Yeah. But there are many things that you can't do. Yeah. Processing health data in an employment contract, to the contrary, is possible, even though it's sensitive data in many cases. Yeah. Any more questions? I'm already way over time. Feel free.
Can I just mention one thing? You mentioned, AWS. I have to say that was not a very good example, because I work with the other association, which is called Cloud Infrastructure Services Providers in Europe. Believe it or not, what they did 3 years ago is a code of conduct on privacy and security, which is now almost to be approved by the European Data Protection Board. And actually, the whole purpose of the code is exactly what you mentioned, that two key points of this code is beyond, explaining a bit more for the customers how to implement GDPR, how to ensure that they understand that their data is, let's say, safely handled and stored. Two elements are that all the main elements of the code must be put into the contracts in terms of service of the provider. So if you know, there was the European Commission initiative, what is now called, sorry for the term, but they call it is Eurococ. So European Code of Conduct and Privacy, which would include every cloud services, which of course each cloud service is very much different depending on the layer of the services. And since infrastructure providers found out that actually the basic premise of that code would be, you have a code, but then you can overrun it with your terms of services and the contract. They said, oh, but that's not the point. They turned the table and said, no, you need to implement the code into your terms of services and contracts. And second point, which is very important, is that you must offer customers to store their data in you. So if you ask if Amazon stores in Europe, Amazon stores in
Yeah, they have this other option, that's totally right. Yeah.
They have quite a lot of capacities in Europe, especially, like I said, Germany, many countries in France, when they store the data, they simply, like French local laws, cannot be, in any case, put anywhere in France because they will put it there. But what I say is, it's quite interesting that people really realized by themselves that there is a need, even before GDPR came into force, because code was promoted before that. There is really a need to do something that really have to offer the customer some sort of, let's say, security. I think someone mentioned ISO standards. So ISO 27000 family is the part of this.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that after the revision of the code and the comments from EDPB, actually the main comments went on the security part, more than the privacy. They were quite happy with the privacy part. They actually more focused on the security part. And then the question, of course, that will be for all providers is how to ensure that there is a proper third-party certification. But I think it's quite interesting to know that there is a sort of understanding that customers really expect a sort of, let's call it certainty, or at least there is a sort of guarantee that the data will be properly stored and handled, at least from the processor side, so to speak. And this, I think, it's not well known, and I think it's a bit of a pity because people are not aware, and they always have this, I would say, legitimate concern, like, oh, where is my data? But I can tell you there is a hope.
Yeah, so you see some companies like using this for marketing. Yeah?
Yes.
They're promoting, we're offering you the EU option. Yeah, we can store your data safely. That has become, I think, this is also true if you are in the B2C business. People, maybe because of GDPR and Facebook is all over right now. like people are interested in the protection of their data. Yeah? Sometimes they're interested in like messing a bit with the companies because it's super easy to file access requests and see what companies do. We had a case, there was a fight between a supplier and a big automaker, and the supplier said, okay, well, let's see. And they filed they had 250 employees filing data subject access requests to every single company of the whole group. Yeah? You can, it's like employees are using this as a weapon as well. I talked to somebody from McDonald's and they call them letters from hell. Yeah, because they're using data subject access requests to prepare lawsuits. Yeah, if somebody is fired, the first thing some of them do is to say, okay, you have 1 month to please provide everything. Yeah, I want to have those 350,000 emails, and I want to have them right away. But you're totally right. Data privacy gets a lot more attention than we had before.
You mentioned about Simon's case. I was curious to know which were the challenges and the solutions that you faced there in terms of incorporating privacy by design, also in terms of documentation, like at contract level, what you can mention as being a must.
So I don't know whether anybody's, I mentioned this previously. We did the Siemens Mindsphere project. This is a large platform. It's like a little bit like an app store, but a platform which is offering communication services as well. And one of the most important use cases is you can put your own software on this platform to control your machines. Yeah, if you're sitting in Munich in a nice beer garden, you can take out your tablet and have a look at how many pieces of whatever you're producing are produced by a single machine. What would be the next time for maintaining the machine? Yeah, and stuff like that. And this was very well like recognized by the industry. They have a lot of customers, and so they decided to make a worldwide rollout of that. And as I said, they're offering like information services. The very moment something breaks in your machine, they're going to push you a notice and via email and say, hey, something is going wrong here. You have a certain type of reporting tools, and they're offering security. You can have an encrypted VPN tunnel connection to your machine and whatever. So what were the challenges? This is not a really data privacy heavy thing for the time being. There's only to a very limited extent personal data. Most of this stuff is machine data. Yeah. But nevertheless, the rollout was quite a challenge, yeah, because you had to make an overall assessment, let's say under German law, what would you need, how would the contracts need to be to set in place. There would be the contracts between Siemens and the business customer with the terms and conditions, yeah. But you had to take into account that some of the customers are reselling those products to other customers in the country. So you had the whole contract set up, and then you had, for example, telecommunication issues. Yeah. Because the question when something qualifies as telecommunication service, yeah. What we understand that a telecommunication service is clear. We take out our hand and call somebody. This is clearly a telecommunication service. But there's gray area as well, yeah, because they had this conveyance of signals and messages and stuff going on. So we had to ask in 73 countries, does this qualify as a telecommunication service? Because if it does, yeah, there's a lot more to adhere to. Yeah, telecommunication service, even though we don't have like clear standards for that, yeah, or comparable standards, are in most countries relatively heavily regulated. Yeah. And what is very interesting is that in many security laws, and I mean more like security laws from governmental authorities, have an interest in being able to intercept and to read messages. You know, there were quite a few countries where we had to comply with the authority standards to grant the authority upon request access to the data. Yeah. And then they have, for example, retention periods. They say you have to store this data for 6 months. This was not foreseen in the process, yeah, because the whole idea was if the machine is broken, it's going to send a message to you and says your machine is broken. That's it. There was no storage of such information foreseen. Yeah. And then we offered to prevent somebody from interfering with the machines. Yeah. What was again the name of this virus they put in to impede the development of weapons of mass destruction? In the United States, you have to have put some virus into was it Iran or Iraq or something to mess with their weapons of mass destruction program. Don't remember what the name was. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And to prevent this from happening with the machines, we had offered security, yeah, and used encryption to have an encrypted connection to the machines. And in some countries, they said, "Sorry, it's not going to happen." We said, "What? If you're encrypting this, yeah, we're not 100% sure whether we can see everything your customers are doing, yeah, because it was just in some countries it's not allowed to use encryption. Yeah. And then you have the Siemens offering hardware. Yeah. If you have a bit older machine, yeah, part of MindSphere you can buy in MindSphere a Connect box. You just plug it into your machine, and then your machine is IoT ready, and you can connect it to the platform. Yeah. And you need a certificate for that. Yeah. And import and export regulations, and tax and whatever. Yeah. So the project was very interesting, but it covered not only what you call IoT, but regulatory, tax, and whatever.
Thank you. And I will have one more question quickly.